Hello, friends. For the last two episodes, we've been speaking on leadership. And we have discussed and I believe established that to be a leader, you don't need a fancy title, but you need to have certain values and skills that would help you to become a great leader. Now, while these values and skills are developable, you can increase them, you can hone them so that you become better at everything. They are very critical. But at the end of the day, let us all remember that you are not perfect. Nobody in the world is. I mean, you find me one perfect person, and I will say he's not human. So nobody is perfect. And even as a seasoned leader, you cannot go out there and state with absolute certainty that you will not make a mistake or you will not slip up. You may not goof up if you are an experienced leader. That's a little strong word, but there is always a chance that you will slip up. And this is especially true of new leaders. Because as a new leader, you're going through a lot in your mind. Okay, especially first-time leaders. If you are a seasoned leader and taking up a new job, your stress is much less. But if you're a first-time leader and taking up the leadership position, the stress is much more. Okay? Because it's a huge task. Leadership is no mean task. And it has an immense responsibility, far more than what you have ever had. And why is that? Because you were earlier responsible for your success, for your well-being, for everything that you need to do properly. But as a leader, you're not only responsible for your success, you are responsible for the success and the well-being of your entire team. And that, trust me, is no mean task. So when you have to make sure that everybody you're working with succeeds, the organization on the whole succeeds, trust me, leadership is a big challenge and a daunting task. And take it from me, you will make mistakes. Small, big, doesn't matter. You will make mistakes. But how you react to those mistakes, how you take corrective action, what do you learn from them? That is what is going to determine your success, not only in the short term, but even in the long term. Because those learnings, and as we said in the last episode, all those learnings from failures and successes put together are what we call experience. And as you gain more and more experience, your success is more and more probable and ensured. So you have to become a better leader considering all of this. And in today's episode, while we have seen what values and skills you require in the last two episodes, in today's episode, I am going to look at some of the mistakes that you could possibly make and how to avoid them and how to react to them, at least in certain cases that are really necessary. Anytime we talk of leadership, the point that generally comes about is that you need to have a strategy to be a successful leader. You need to have a great strategic plan, 100% correct. But if that is 100% correct, there is something else that is 200% correct and which every leader has to know and develop. And that is a great communication plan. You need a communication plan that is going to ensure that your team stays engaged, motivated, and happy. Only if your team has these three things going for them Will they be ready to go all out and help you and achieve your goals for the organization and for you in particular? Because they'll start loving you as a leader. So, the communication is very, very important. And only if you have the right communication and convey the right messages will you be ensured of a successful leadership and successfully achieving your goals. So there's some tips that will help you to become a better communicator. And that's what we are going to look at. You probably all heard of the acronym KISS. I've changed the last word to be a little more decent. I'm calling it keep it simple, sir. You're a leader. And the first thing that I need to tell you is do not distribute tons of pages to communicate something or make long speeches without ensuring that what is important stays retained in the listener's mind. Because such long notes, multiple pages, are most often not read. And even the speeches, when you give long speeches without pinpointing in some way or the other the key takeaways of your speech, people are not going to remember every single thing that you said. Yes, they'll remember it in the present, but not in the future. So rather than all this, what I would suggest is you make something like an executive summary. You list down a few bullet points that are absolutely critical for the project or whatever it is you're communicating about. Or at the end of a speech, make sure that you sum up something. So at least those 2 or 3 minutes of your talk, they have to remember and they will remember, and you will start moving ahead. So make those bullet points. And this is something I learned way back in school, is create an easily rememberable acronym for the bullet points. Like I still remember what is cos and what is sine and what is tan, because of a professor, of a school teacher, not even, had taught us this acronym business. So tan is take no. Cos is costly American hat. That means cos is adjacent divided by hypotenuse. Costly American hat. So these things help you to remember things for a lifetime. And that's what you really want people to do. So try make an acronym. Clarify. Everything you say may not be clearly understood in the first shot. So you need to clarify how your plan, and always explain this particular thing. Keep it in mind always. Whenever you are explaining a project or a plan, explain to the entire team how that plan is going to differentiate you from the competitors and give you an edge over them. Every team member wants to be better than that guy in the other company. And this is especially more important when you communicate things to your sales and marketing team. Because at the end of the day, they are the face of your company in front of your consumers. And remember, more often than not, less is more. So even when it comes to your vision, have a simple, well-defined vision. Limit the number of objectives. I have seen companies making a whole list of, say, 25 objectives. Who's going to remember them? Make it into 5. Start tackling them, take them the 5, but don't set up 25 objectives at the same time, which the whole team has to follow. Yes, you might have 25 objectives across 5, 7, 10 teams, that's fine. So limit the number of objectives. And do not, just as I said right now, make those executive summary bullet points or so end your speech with a bullet with a summary of what you have just spoken for that 20, 30, 40 minutes or whatever. And do not let the essentials get lost in the jungle of literature, multiple pages, or a jungle of words, your long, long speeches. So this is very important. Whenever you set objectives, and remember, not all objectives are measurable, but whenever you set objectives, define the criteria by which you will measure them. Make every objective measurable. If it is something subjective, form a team of 3, 5, whatever you think is necessary, who will constantly evaluate the progress on those objectives. Because you need to find some way of quantifying it. Okay? Like, take all the surveys that happen after you've taken a flight or gone to a restaurant. How was the service? And they give you a scale of 5 to 10. You have to quantify it somewhere, even though it is subjective. So you need to make sure that the objectives are measurable. And always appreciate and reward achievements that your team members or teams on the whole make. With this, we've covered what I think personally is the single most important skill for any leader to learn and to be sure not to make a mistake there, and that is the communication plan. Now let's look at some other things that a leader should definitely do. You must set expectations upfront. So whenever you are assigning a task or something, communicate whatever is essential and confirm that that person has understood and got it. Okay, things like cost, depending on the project, might be things like cost. It may be timelines that are very critical. It may be the tasks that you're giving them. None of them can be missed. It can be the responsibilities that go with that task and the authority he has to take decisions on how to do the task. Because you are not going to spell out the how, but you have to give him an authority line so that if he has to take a decision beyond that, he does come back to you. And once you have given them all of this, you have to hold them accountable and responsible for every one of those details that you're confirming. Trust yourself. You may not know everything, but make it a point to learn. And act confidently and quickly whenever something needs to be attended to. Very important to remember, and every leader should do it, is to remember that each and every one person that you work with are human and every one of them is unique. So each employee, each team member, even your seniors, you need to treat them and manage them differently. And always show appreciation. It always boosts the morale of your team and it motivates them to achieve more. Prioritize your tasks. Another very important thing for every leader to do. Do an ABC analysis. It's not only in inventory that you do that. Do an ABC analysis of all the tasks and make sure the important tasks don't get lost. Nor do you get lost in the unimportant tasks. Do not prioritize manager duties. Once you become a leader, once you have reached the pinnacle, not pinnacle, but that level, you need to be sure that you are not doing manager duties. They are, to put it bluntly, way below your pay scale after that. Take a long-term view. Don't look at the short-term only. Short-term has to be kept in mind, but you have to make sure that every short-term thing that you do ties in with the long-term and keep the big picture in mind. You are the leader. You are going to guide the organization and the team. And always be positive in whatever you do. Stay interested. Don't just give a task and forget about it. Be passionate about whatever you do and be enthusiastic. It is going to rub on and motivate your team. Very important. And don't ever forget this, my friends, is that you need to provide a positive environment to every single employee and team member you are working with. That environment must be one where your team can flourish. You need to find ways to shield them from distractions. Maybe others coming and giving a task. You need to figure out a way of not to do that. And you need to protect them from the headaches and all that crap that people will throw at them. You have to be the shield, the crap shield, if you want to call it that. Speak less, listen more, not hear. You need to listen more. And whenever you are wrong, which is going to be there, admit that you are wrong. Don't try to shift the blame to somebody else, and be ready to take criticism. Even if you are doing things right, somebody will come and criticize you. Always be humble. Don't let ego come in the way. And do not be so proud as to think you don't need to learn anything. Even if you have to learn from one of your subordinates, please go ahead and learn. It's going to be better for your future. Delegate. And this we've talked about before. Delegate effectively, not just give them the task. Make sure they understand what they are supposed to do. Make sure that you're giving them timelines, blah, blah, blah. Don't tell them how to do it. Let them figure it out for yourself. But tell them they can come to you for help whenever needed. And definitely do not micromanage them. So these are important. What should you not do? Just like there are things you should do, there are things you should not do. And the first one in that list is do not trust too easily. When you delegate a task, especially if you don't know the efficiency and the knowledge in detail about that employee or team member, you delegate, definitely. You don't stop delegating, but keep checking. Monitor that he's doing things right and going at the right pace. Because you need to confirm his capability to deliver. You need to monitor them, but do not micromanage. And when they need help, help them for that. Don't do that job for them. Okay? Do not, and this I've seen every single case I can think of, do not shy away from difficult conversations. They are going to be there. There will be a lot of discomfort between you and the person you're having the conversation with. Issues will crop up. But it's a good sign if issues crop up. That's a positive sign. So avoiding them will only make them bigger and blow them out of proportion. And then it'll cost you and the organization and everything, both financially as well as in morale. Do not be impersonal. Interact with your friends. I'm not saying forget about your stature or anything. No, you have to guide your this thing, but you have to manage your status, but you have to be personal and interact with me. And do not, for heaven's sake, ever, ever, ever become a yes man fan. In fact, you should build a team of advisors who are truth tellers. They are the ones who are going to tell you the real state of whatever it is that you are trying to do and achieve. They may not always be correct, but there could be something in which they said that will give you some idea or something that you need to be careful about in the plan that you have set up. And definitely don't become one of those leaders who says, my way is the only way or else there is no way. Worst thing you can possibly do. As we just said, don't blame the losses on somebody else. But in the same way, don't steal their wins. Whenever there is something wrong that goes on, happens, you are the one who is responsible. And you need to shield your team from it. Whenever something great happens, it's your team who did it. You are just there in front of them. So give due credit to team members. They will feel great about it. As a leader, never lie, cheat, or gossip. You should expect respect and do not tolerate disrespect under any circumstances. But don't expect excessive respect like you are a god. No, that you have to earn. And how will you earn that? By making sure that you deliver on the goals and promises that you have made and helping your team to deliver and achieve the goals and promises that they have. Okay, so do not ever go back on your word. You will have to give your word at times, but make sure that you do not promise anything that you cannot deliver. And remember always, you are not the star. You are the leader. The star is the team. So whenever something great happens, put your team forward. Whenever something bad happens, you're the leader, take the blame and go to sleep. Do not ignore feedback that you receive from your team members. And even worse is not seeking it. Do not ignore growth opportunities and always lead by example. Now, when you make a mistake, admit the mistake as soon as it happens. Do not let it linger. Resist or desist the urge to make excuses. Explain how and why you made the mistake, because somebody else from your team might learn from it. And apologize. Apology is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. After you do all of this, don't wallow in your mistakes. Move on. It happens and there's no harm in it. Accept that you have made talent selection or estimation mistakes and correct your team to overcome that. Seek out and remove from your this thing all the chronic mistakes and repeated mistakes you keep making. You have to work on it diligently. Accept the implications of the mistake and try to correct them. One thing you need to remember is that an untrained leader or a leader who lacks knowledge and yet is overconfident is the worst kind of leader that you will ever find. So always keep learning, keep all these pointers in mind, and go on to become the great leader that you are capable of. Have a great day, and we shall catch up again next week. Thank you.